Welcome, everyone. Today we have the pleasure to have Brandon from Renovo, Dr. Saeed, and Juan Loya from Homebridge. So thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. Today we're talking about the different funding methods. So welcome, Happy New Year to all three of you. So thank you for joining us today. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give a quick introduction of the different sources, and then we're going to let the experts go in more detail. Okay, so as you know me, I like to keep things very, very simple. So I came up with this chart behind me. It'll just take me a few minutes to go over that, and then we're going to have Brandon, Juan, and Dr. Saeed go over in more detail and answer all your questions. Okay, so this is what we have for funding sources. Okay, so these are the main sources for your deals. So you have cash. You have pension plans, 401k. You can tap into your home equity. So that's a HELOC, home equity line of credit. Then you have institutional money, hard money lenders, big institutions. Then you have the private money lenders, who are individuals who have a lot of money and they chose to be passive in real estate. So they're going to be lending money to you or me in exchange for a return. And finally, we have the conventional lenders. These are the big banks, okay? Now, we have pretty much two columns. We divided this into the front end and the back end, okay? So what's the difference? So front end and back end, it's gonna be determined by your exit strategy. So in real estate, you have three exit strategies. You either fix and flip, buy and hold, or wholesale. We're not going to talk about wholesaling because wholesaling, you're not technically buying the property, okay? So we're going to focus on fix and flip and buy and hold. So on the front end, what we mean is that you have to buy the property and rehab. So that applies to both exit strategies, fix and flip and buy and hold, okay? So you have to do both in those two exit strategies. The only difference is that on the back end, if you decide to keep the property as a rental, then you're going to need to do an extra step. You're going to need to refinance, and then we're going to talk about that in just a second. Because when you fix and flip, you're just going to sell the property and the transaction ends right there. So let's go into the details very quickly. When you buy properties, right, for either fix and flip or buy and hold using your cash, it's great. However, you're limiting your growth because you're not leveraging from other people's money. So you're going to grow to a certain level, and most people don't have an infinite resource of cash, right? The second option, your pension plan, 401k, that's a great source, low interest rate. However, again, it does not allow you to grow your real estate business, okay? There's no way that using your pension plan, you're going to be able to grow exponentially in the flipping business or building a rental empire. Next, you have the HELOC, home equity line of credit. So if you have your primary home with a lot of equity, guess what? You can tap into that equity by getting a HELOC, meaning you're gonna cash out on your primary residence. And then you can obviously use that cash to do flips or to do buy and holds, okay? But again, these strategies are limited because you cannot grow in neither one of those two exit strategies. And then we come to the most interesting section. Then we have the institutional money or hard money lenders and private money lenders. So I'm going to focus on those two, okay? Now, why those two at this point? Because they are asset-based, and they're going to allow you to grow exponentially, okay? So they're going to be focusing on the property, on the deal, on the transaction itself. So now, these two strategies, the main difference between hard money lenders and private money lenders is that one is institutional hard money lenders. So they're backed up by hedge funds. They have tons of money. Private money lenders, on the other side, they're individuals, just like you and I, obviously with a lot of cash. And then they have similar terms. So it's expensive money. But the cool thing about this is that you're going to be able to leverage from their money quite a lot. So you have very little money stuck in the property or nothing at all. So these are just general terms that you're going to be seeing with institutional money. So they're going to be able to finance 85% of the purchase price. So you're going to need to put down 15% or so. It's a short-term loan, about 9 months. The interest rate varies depending on your experience, the lender, your exit strategy. So I've seen all the way from 9 to 15, 16%, typically 2 points, but I've seen from 1 all the way to 4 or 5 points. Now, on the rehab, they can finance 100% of the rehab. And on the next item, we have the private money lenders. As you can see, the terms are pretty much almost the same. The main difference is that if you use private money lenders, they're going to be able to finance up to 100% of the purchase price and 100% of their rehab. Now, I've seen that institutional lenders, they have protocols they have to follow. For instance, they have to do an appraisal. Whereas with the private money lenders, it's not a requirement, okay? You don't need to have an appraisal. It's based on trust. They need to know your experience. They need to make sure that you understand what you're doing so that they can lend you their money. But again, they are both going to have a first position lien on your property. And then we have the conventional, okay? We're gonna talk about the conventional next. So let's assume that your exit strategy is a rental. So once you purchase the property, rehab the property, now you're gonna lease the property, you're gonna rent it out. So when you rent out the property, now it's time to pay off either the hard money lender or the private money lender. Something, it's a new trend that I found is that hard money lenders or institutional lenders are now creating programs, products for a rental loan. So they can not only do the fix and flip loan for you, but they can also turn that into a rental loan once you have a lease. So they're gonna give you a lower interest rate, somewhere in the 5s, and then it's a 30-year amortization. Private money lenders, they're not gonna have rental programs, okay? So you do have to refinance with a conventional lender. Now let's talk about that. Conventional lenders. Why are you not going to use conventional lenders on the front end? Because most of the great deals that are off market are distressed properties, utilities are off. So lenders that are conventional, meaning big banks like Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Homebridge, they're expecting to have a property in a pretty good condition, livable condition, okay? Even with some of the utilities on. So that is why we don't use conventional lenders on the front end. They're gonna be able to finance, if you happen to find a property that it's in great shape, they can finance up to 95, even 97% of the purchase price. They have different programs like FHA, and then the interest rate is quite low, in the 5s. However, they're not gonna give you any money for the rehab unless it's a 203K loan, which is sort of like a construction loan. So they'll be able to finance some of the rehab loan. So now let's talk about the back end, okay? This is something super critical for you to understand. So once you bought the property using these sources, any of these sources, and you rehab the property, and then you rented the property. Now it comes time to pay off either the hard money lender or the private money lender. So you're gonna need to go to conventional lenders, and they're gonna be 2 types, either residential or commercial. So the only difference is that a residential loan is going to require you to have a W-2, 2 years of pay stub, 2 years of tax returns, versus a commercial loan. So the commercial loan is going to be on your entity, okay? And it does not focus so much on your credit, your experience. Of course, they're both gonna look into your credit. That's gonna drive the terms of your loan, but this is primarily to your LLC. And one of the biggest difference between residential and commercial is, I would say, two main difference. The residential, you're gonna get a lower interest rate, so somewhere in the 3%, 3-4%. Commercial, you're gonna get in the 5s. But the biggest difference is that residential is going to show up in your personal credit report versus commercial is not going to show in your personal credit report. So what difference does it make? Well, the debt to income ratio. So if you have too many residential loans, guess what? It's going to affect your FICO. You can have up to 10 residential loans, so up to 10 properties under your name, okay? Commercial, you can have as many as you want. So that's the biggest difference. That's something that you need to decide because keep in mind the debt to income ratio is critical when it comes to for you to get funding. So some people, it's a trade-off. I rather pay a higher interest rate but getting a commercial loan under my entity than getting a residential loan with a lower interest rate. So this is something to keep in mind. But again, these are the main sources of funding. So now let's we have three panelists today. We have Dr. Said, he's a private money lender. We have Brandon from Renovo, institutional money, hard money lender. And then we have Juan Loya from Homebridge, conventional lending, okay? So Dr. Said, Juan, Brandon, can we just introduce yourself and then talk about, go more in depth as to the main advantages of using your services, your funding sources.
Juan, are you asking me to go first?
Who's first, Hugo?
Hello. Juan, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm sorry, Hugo, can you hear me? Thank you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, Hugo, the thing is that as a private money lender, my funds are actually in my estate plan, which is the IRA, basically. So I lend out of my IRA. I've been practicing as a physician almost more than 40 years. So now I'm about to retire. And typically, you know, when a borrower approaches me for funding, it is typically either a flip or a rental property. The loans are typically 4 to 6 months. And they are like 2 points and 12%. So 2 points up front and then 12% paid monthly. And typically by about 6 months, they end up refinancing their properties. I like to know my borrowers very well. I want to know the properties that they are borrowing on thoroughly. I do my due diligence and so on and so forth. So that's basically the net, a summary of basically what I do and what this is all about as far as my private money lending situation is concerned. And I owe a lot to my gurus who are in Mastery, you know, Andrew and Rahul from the Mastery program that I belong to.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Said. Juan or Brandon?
So again, my name is Juan Loya. I'm with Homebridge Financial. I am a residential mortgage lender. So typically I'm involved in your loans from Fannie Mae, FHA, Fannie Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA, that sort of thing. So I'm involved in what we call agency loans or agency guidelines. So we tend to write loans that we're able to sell those loans off using Fannie Mae guidelines or FHA guidelines. So we have a fair amount of rules that are involved, but typically we're going to have the best interest rates available compared to you know, private money lender or the commercial lender such as Renovo. So there's times where you might you know, you're looking to you know, build a portfolio. So first of all, wherever you presently live, where you're going to you know, you buy a property, you want to live in it, or you buy a multi-unit, you know, 2, 3, 4 unit, you want to live in one unit and rent out the others, house hacking as you might call it. The other lenders, commercial lenders, will not lend you on your primary residence. So first of all, anybody who needs financing on their personal home or personal property would be giving me a call for that. And then there's also going to be times when you might go to a private money lender like Dr. Said, or you go to a commercial lender like Renovo, to get funding to buy it and fix it, depending on your exit strategy. So if you're going to hold on to that property as a rental property, you could come to me to refinance that property at the end, right? So my programs are going to have a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more requirements than a commercial lender, but I'm going to have the best interest rates for that property typically. My rates and fees are going to be, less than the commercial lender would be, but I have a little bit more red tape, right? So the other limitation that you might have with the residential lender like myself is Fannie Mae is going to have a limitation as to how many loans you can take with us, right? So Fannie Mae has a limit that you cannot have more than 10 financed properties and still get Fannie Mae financing. So somebody who's building more than a portfolio of 10 financed properties at a certain point will start to work with me and work with some commercial programs. So we kind of layer those two together. Now, it's ironic that as I'm also an investor, I'm also a mastery member like Dr. Saeed, and I've had actually the pleasure of working with both of these folks to finance my properties. So to give you a live example, I bought a property. I had bought a property for $85,000. I borrowed $100,000 from Dr. Saeed to buy it and fix it. So I actually was able to borrow extra money than what I paid for it to get some money to fix it. And once that property was fixed and I rented it, I went and I got a loan from Renovo for my takeout financing, right? And the reason that I went to Renovo for my takeout financing was simply because I was looking to do it quicker or faster than what the agency guidelines would allow me to do. So although I'm a residential lender, I also use private money lending to acquire my properties, and I also work with commercial lenders for my portfolio building. And then, again, part of my plan is I do intend to have some larger multi-unit buildings. So when I say larger, I'm talking, 2, 3, 4 unit buildings. So I'm going to reserve my my residential spots in my portfolio for my 3 and 4 unit buildings, where the interest rate will matter a lot more than on the smaller transactions, that I don't mind paying a little bit more in interest for smaller loans, and then I want to be more focused on getting the best possible rates for the bigger loans.
That's a great strategy. I like that one.
Okay.
Brian, welcome.
Awesome. That was great. Juan, you got it figured out, man. That's an awesome playbook. I would encourage a lot of guys to follow that. It's right where you need to be from a capital standpoint. So, Dr. Ali and Juan have really done a great job of kind of, detailing how and when to use them. My name is Brandon Moulton, Senior Vice President of Lending here at Renovo. I've been here now for 6 years. Really, in a nutshell, we're kind of like Dr. Ali, but just more institutional, right? He's going to be super flexible and can close within maybe 3 or 5 days. I don't want to put him on the spot, but we're going to be like 10 days. And then we're going to do individual draws based upon work that's completed. So all of our deals are going to have typically some kind of construction or value add component to it. So if you're buying it for 100, putting in 100, and it's worth 300, we're your guys. And then on the flip side of that, we've got 30-year offerings, so we can really handle it from infancy or inception to when you want to take it down and just put it to bed and set it and forget it. So we've got the 5 one-arm, 7 one-arm, 10 one-arm, and 30-year fixed options. And those are smoking rates right now. Really unbelievable how much the capital markets are desiring that. And yeah, I mean, really, and then aside from that, I would say given the volume and number of clients we work with and me sitting in on loan committee, you've got the ability to leverage not only our network, but our knowledge, given kind of the data points we're privy to as a result of the volume. That's really it. I mean, and I think there's a place for all of us to kind of work here as part of this puzzle. You know, you could effectively use all three of us on a transaction at some point. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. There's a question on the line by Pervez for Brandon. Do you offer commercial refinancing without W-2 requirement?
No, we don't require a W-2. So I think to kind of Juan's point earlier is, you know, we're going to be slightly higher on the interest rate for 30-year fixed stuff. So it might make sense to use us for maybe some of the smaller stuff, or maybe when, you know, if you're a contractor or somebody that is self-employed and your tax return a little tough, or don't meet the conventional guidelines, we can certainly kind of work through and you know, take a look at on those exception-based type loans. So I guess I think the question you're really getting down to, Pervez.
Now, what are go ahead.
As I said, I think the question you're really getting down to is like, how much of, on an individual property basis, how much of the underwriting is focused on personal income or DTI? And for those that don't know what debt to income ratio is, it is essentially just taking what your debt, your monthly obligations are, and putting it over as your numerator, and then your income as your denominator. And Juan, you can tell me more than, or you know, exactly what they're looking for on the conventional side, but usually between 35 to 40% is kind of what the ratio is that they're looking for. Is that still kind of where they're at?
So, you know, it's a little bit more complicated answer than that. So yes, the ratios, that is the correct answer for the ratios. But what we're going to do for rental properties is we're going to use 75% of the proposed rental income minus the total payment. And if it's a positive number, it goes towards their qualifying income. If it's a negative number at that point, that would be the liability that we're looking at. So it's very similar to your debt coverage ratio that you might look at.
Sure. And is your payment PITI, principal, interest, taxes?
Correct. Yeah. Right. So the biggest thing in my world is, look, if they qualify for their personal residence, and it's kind of a silly you know, statement, but not everybody, you know, some people go out and buy a really, really, really big house, and they stretch to buy their house, and now when they want to become investors, there's no room left, right? So if somebody was roughly at 30% of their total income for their house payment, and no more than 40% for their total payment, so house, cars, credit cards, that sort of thing, at that point, if they're purchasing properties that are cash flow positive, if they're making them money, then you're in pretty good shape and you can qualify. But if they went out and when they bought their primary residence, if they had a debt to housing ratio of, let's just say, we can get people into loans at a 50-55% housing ratio or total ratio, but when they want to become investors, nobody wants to help them, right? Because they're already over their limit. They spent more than they should have on their home, and that's just the reality, right? So the other thing that I wanted to bring up, everybody, was, you know, when we were kind of dealing with this COVID crisis this year, I actually had the opportunity that I had a loan from Dr. Ali. And what ended up happening is I had a private loan with Dr. Ali, and then all of a sudden, all of the commercial lenders and even the residential lenders, everybody kind of stopped lending for a minute because we didn't know which way things were going to happen. At a certain point, I called Dr. Ali and I said, listen, doctor, we have this private money loan. Commercial lenders have stopped lending, but I just want you to know what's going on. And, I kept good communication with him, and we were able to work through that situation. And, hey, he made a little bit of extra interest on the loan because I held it for a little bit longer. But we had we had a good understanding, good communication, and with that private money lender, you can work through some of those issues. When you're working with more institutional, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they have they have a lot more rules involved, and even the commercial lenders, they want to get paid when they want to get paid. But again, that private money combination, private money up front with the commercial takeout or the residential takeout, you just have to know your lending relationships. Hugo, you're on mute.
Okay, one more question from HIP. Dr. Saeed and Brandon, do you require seasoning on any down payment?
I did not require any down payment. Basically, as Juan mentioned, I rely heavily upon my relationship with my borrower and knowing my borrower very well and looking at the borrower's exit strategy. So basically, it is since I have the secured note on the property and the mortgage, those are areas that provide me that sense of security. And I do require 2 points upfront if that might be considered like a down payment, but basically it's 2 points initiation of the loan, and then 12% on a monthly basis. So I do not require any specific down payment like 15% or 10% down on the property.
Okay, perfect. What about you, Brendan?
Yeah, I think it's more just seeking to understand on are you able to put up the money? How financially solvent are you, or is it like kind of patchworking together a loan where you've never done a deal, you've never made money in your life really, but you're borrowing money from somebody and using that as a down payment? That's not a great story. Now, if it's like, hey, I've got 5 of these going right now, it's a deal that I can't miss on, and I think this is a good deal, and we look at it and we agree, but maybe you're waiting for the sale of a property or something along those lines, then yeah, it makes sense. So I think it just depends on the borrower experience and the story in total. But traditionally, it's tough for us to get comfortable with 0 down payment. That's tough.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you want to share the phone number, Parvez, for Brandon? So we have it. Let me share my screen. Let me show you where we have. Under the preferred partners, go to Harmony Lenders, and then go to the second screen right here. We have Brandon, and then his contact information, phone number, everything. And then we have the same for Juan Loya. So go to conventional, or actually lenders, right here. Lenders, and then we have Homebridge, Juan Loya. This is how you can get in touch with them. Okay, another question from Michael. Does private money lenders consider DTI as well? Debt to income ratio? For Dr. Said.
We do consider that. Yeah, we do consider that, but there are so many other things that we also take into consideration, and that is our basic strategy is also taking a very, very close, detailed look at the property itself, and what is the ARV like, and whether the numbers make sense. You see, so definitely we do not necessarily go into getting the credit report and those types of things. But perhaps I can speak for the majority of private money lenders. They want to feel secure that they'll be able to get their funding back. And so they want to understand where is the financial status of the borrower also. Are they working? Are they employed? Do they have some money as reserves? So if something goes wrong, will they be able to take care of the situation? So those are the types of things. And basically.
Great, thank you, Dr. Saeed. A question for Kevin. What are the parameters to take a loan for each of the gentlemen? So I know you cover that, Dr. Saeed.
I'll hop in here. I think it starts with the conversation and just getting to know our borrowers and making sure you have a focused business plan and that it's a good fit for both sides in that regard. And then if we can come to an agreement there and feel good about it, I think it starts with an application, 2 years tax returns, 3 months bank statements, and then a list of the projects you've done to date. And then from there, it's just kind of project specific. But we're going to want to see a strong track record, some income, obviously, but experience and cash are really the things that weigh most heavily. And then obviously we're going to pull credit. I want to ensure that there's not anything that's glaring, missed mortgages, those types of things, because in the end, to kind of echo what Dr. Ali was saying, and I know Juan would agree, is we just want to set you up for success so that you can get in and out of these loans, and we can just have a nice repeatable format to continue this on, because a lot of brain damage for everybody to probably do one deal, right? I don't think anybody's on this call to do one deal. So we want to get into look at the guys that are doing 2 in their first year, 4 in their second year, 8 in their third year kind of thing.
So my qualifying is going to be slightly different than Brandon's, where we are going to be very much looking at credit, income, assets, and employment. W-2s or tax returns are not necessarily optional in my world. We definitely need to verify qualifying income. But the biggest difference, another big difference, is we are not going to have the project requirements where commercial is looking at the borrower's experience as an investor. We're going to be a great source for your first-time investor. We're just not looking that deeply. So a great place for somebody who wants to do their first deal, buy it, fix it, and rent it could be a residential lender. And then once they've got a couple of deals that they've done, then hey, the commercial guys are more comfortable that we can get the deals done, right? So kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg sometimes, right? But where commercial is going to be a little bit more flexible on the qualifying income, because they're focusing more on the project itself. We're going to look at the project at the end, because we're going to look at the borrower first in terms of credit, income, assets, and employment history, that sort of thing. Hugo, you're on mute.
Thank you. There's another question from Kevin. Is the loan in the name of the company or the individual?
For us, it always has to be in a company.
And for us, it always has to be in the individual.
So in my situation, it can be
perfect.
either the individual or the LLC.
Are there any other questions, friends, on the line? I did notice that we have Mark Goodman on the line, and he's been killing it lately. And I understand that, Mark, you've been using primarily private money lenders. So how has that worked for you, Mark? If you can share your experience on the buyer side. Why have you not used hard money lenders or institutional money? Why have you focused on private money lenders as a buyer, as an investor?
Right. So out of 13 deals that I've done in about 2.5 years, maybe going on 3 years, 12 of them have been with private money lenders. I find having a relationship with private money lenders is better. I feel that I can get the money quicker. The transaction is easier. One thing I like about it is, the deal is more asset-based or relationship-based, where, someone like Dr. Ali or even Juan would agree that it's easier to get money. Hey, I got a deal. Here's the deal. Okay, great. A day later you got funding, or maybe 2 days later. I'm assuming Brandon doesn't work that fast. He can work fast, but it's not that fast. So for me, private money is a really good source of getting money quicker with a good deal. Also, one thing I do like about it is that oftentimes private money lenders, because they're lending on the deal, aren't necessarily doing a hard pull on your credit. So I'm not having a hard pull on the front end of the property and a hard pull on the back end of the property. So for those people who are sensitive to having multiple credit scores or too many, because we all know what that means, I have a very high credit score, and I'm just not looking for it to be pulled all the time either.
Mark, you'd be surprised how fast I can move if we do 13 deals in 2 years.
All right, well, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation, later or tomorrow. I'm open to that. But out of the 13, 12 have been private money lenders. I just found it to be easier, and I liked it better. I'm not excluding it, but I'm open to it, Brandon.
No, I get it. There's definitely a convenience that goes with private individual lenders, for sure.
There's a question from Clarence. He is asking if anybody here do refinancing a rental property that's been updated, property has been owned for over 10 years. Absolutely, Clarence. Both Brandon and Juan can help you. Are there any other questions on the line? So let's just quickly summarize, friends, what we've talked about. The best sources of funding on the front end to purchase a property and to rehab, it's institutional money, people like Brandon from Renovo, Senior Vice President, and private money lenders like Dr. Said. It's going to be quick money, both of them. They can close in 2-3 weeks. And not only that, but they're going to finance up to 100% of the rehab. So I love both of them. We've used both of them. Also, one of the things that I like about that is that you can grow exponentially. So if you use both strategies for funding, you can do many, many more deals, okay? And then on the back end, I love the fact that now you can also refinance using institutional money. Like Brandon said, they just rolled out these rental programs. So if you do the fix and flip with them, guess what? They've got all your information, profile, and so forth. All it takes is a phone call. Hey, Brandon, now the property is rented. Here's the lease, and boom, in 2-3 weeks, guess what? You refinance the property into a long-term lower interest rate. So it's very convenient. Unlike private money lenders, obviously they need their money paid off in 6 to 9 months. So you do have to go out and look for either a residential or commercial lender to pay them off, okay? Which there's nothing wrong with that, right? So you can even go to Brandon to pay off Dr. Ali, right? So he's got the commercial product to put your fix and flip, or your rental on a long-term loan, So that's the beauty of working with both of them. So I highly suggest working with both of them. In the last, I would say 3 months, we've done probably 2-3 loans with Brandon, and we have 2 outstanding loans with private money lenders. So it's been amazing. It's been great. They allow us to grow. So thank you for that. And also we've used Homebridge as well on the refinance for certain properties. But I do like the idea that Juan mentioned earlier, because we're doing that. So when it comes to refinance, we highly suggest to use residential for the bigger loans, because you're going to get a lower interest rate, 3 to 5%. But for the smaller loans, you can afford to do the commercial refinance. It's going to be in the 5s, which is still low. But the beauty is that there's less requirements. It's going to be on your LLC, and it doesn't go in your personal credit report, because again, as Juan mentioned, you can only have up to 10 loans under your name. So I want to thank you, Brandon, Juan, Dr. Said, for your time. And is there anything that you would like to share, or a piece of advice from your experience to our audience?
You know, my advice, you know, is continue to surround yourself with like-minded people who are trying to, you know, achieve similar goals. You know, and you start to develop friendships throughout this. You know, whether it's a private money lender or fellow investors, and you know, Hugo, you're building, and I'm building, and Mark's building, and each one of us has slightly different experiences, but we can learn from each other. And the private money lenders or the, you know, commercial lenders, they have different experiences, and they really do become part of the team. As I'm building my portfolio, again, my private money lenders and my commercial lenders, they're truly part of my investment team. And you know, it's all about relationships, right? So definitely you have to build your team in, and DealVault is a very big part of what I use for my investing, because you know, again, you guys bring a lot of value to my team as well.
Thank you, Juan.
I will add to that. I will add to what Juan just mentioned, and that is, as a private money lender, I'm extremely sensitive to all the challenges and the difficulties that typically my borrower would be going through. And it has to be a win-win situation. It is definitely a team effort. The exit strategy has to be thought out very meticulously, as clearly and as precisely as possible, because there are so many different hurdles throughout the journey. So that is basically very important, and the relationship, the communication is extremely critical.
Agreed.
Thank you, Dr. Said.
I would say really continue to follow up with individuals here, because the you know, the money is really what at the end of the day turns the spigot on and off for investors. So really understanding the goalposts going into all types of financing, so that you can get in and out quickly, and get to stabilization faster is the end goal, right? And I often see investors too focused maybe on buying or the contracting side, and then they get hurt by not investing in educating themselves on the money. And so I would say spend the time, you know, half an hour. You know, I like coffee, I like lunches when those return, so I'd be happy to sit down and go through it with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. There's a question from Hip. Is there a way to contact Dr. Said? So it's up to Dr. Said if he wants to disclose his contact information, friends.
Sure. How should I do that? Can I just give my cell phone number right now, or would that?
Absolutely. Then
So
Phil, can you Dr. Said's contact information? So
I'll send it.
it's going to be.
I'll send it to the text. Actually, I'll send it as
Posted
a
on the
text message. Okay. I'll send my contact info.
Perfect. Awesome. So I do want to thank all of you. Hey, Sam, for your question. Absolutely, the answer is yes, and one lawyer can help you with the 203K loan, construction loan. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Dr. Saeed, one lawyer, for your precious time and wonderful information tonight. I greatly appreciate your time and your support.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We are going to give you free access to Chicago Deal Vault. If you still don't have it, all you need to do is send a text to 818818 with the word success, your first, last name, and your email. Okay, and then we'll remain on the line for the next couple of minutes to help answer any questions, to help you sign up if you still don't have access to DealVault. And then make sure that you register so you get the replay first thing in the morning tomorrow.